faces and some faces that I've not seen. So it's a pleasure to be back down here. Just a great drive. Senator Allen, appreciate all your hard work. I know that Roger, good luck to you in your race. I know we need strong people who are willing to stand up against what we find in politics, which is power-hungry people. But it's about taking our country back. It really is. It's about the individuals standing up and taking control of their government. You know, if you don't know a lot about me, I've got a carpet cleaning business, and I've had that for 25 years in this government. It's a small business, a small, successful business, which is what you find all up and down the second district. You know, for us, it's a family-run business. We've looked at the other areas. We've worked hard. The other day, I was gassing up my van. I was in a work van. $98 later, after the tank was full, I'm thinking, okay, that's about half of what a typical carpet cleaning job is going to be. And you're wondering, how far am I going to have to drive to the next job? How many jobs am I going to get on that $100 worth of gas, because my machine pulls it off there too? And you begin to wonder how people make ends meet. And what you're finding is that the government is wanting every bit. One of my favorite stories that I tell is, as a kid, my grandfather had a lot of property. And he had some really good fishing ponds, and I'd go fish in those ponds as a teenager in the summer. And I remember one time I caught a pretty good-sized bass. It was probably 3 or 4 pounds. And my grandfather lived up on the hill, and he drove down to the pond. It took him a little bit to get down there. And when he got there, he got out of the truck, and he said, "Son, what'd you catch?" I was pretty proud of myself, so I held up that big bass. And he said, "Well, let me see it." You can imagine a 10 or 12-year-old kid, his grandfather wanted to look at his fish. He grabbed a hold of that, pulled out his pocket knife, cut it in half. He took the tail, gave me the head, and said, "This is your part." That's what the government is doing to us today. They are taking the meat of our labor and leaving us nothing but a bunch of bones and a big head. And what we need to do is we need to push back against the federal government. They're taking away our liberties. You know, I first got into politics, and you have to qualify that in Oklahoma as a state representative. I was elected out of Muskogee in District 14 as the first Republican since statehood in that House seat. 72% Democrat registration. So it was unusual for a Republican to win. But I was asked by my fellow citizens and my neighbors to say, we need someone of character. We need someone that we can trust. We need someone who's proven themselves in our community to run for state house. And I ran for state house, won that election when I shouldn't have, because of the registration. People believed in me. They believed in my character. They believed in what I'd done for all those years. Not only won the next race, but in 2010 was unopposed. Actually held a candidate training school on our own down in McAllister, just to help other folks who are brave enough to run as a Republican in a Democrat district. It's tough, isn't it? It's tough. But the right principles are always worth standing up for. The principles of limited government, the principles of personal responsibility, and pushing back the federal government out of every aspect of life. Roger was talking about how the EPA and all the regulations that are coming down on us. Okay, I've already attacked that on the state level because I passed legislation that I authored that pushes back against regulations. If there's a fee increase now that some bureaucrat in the DEQ that decides he wants to pass on to the city or a municipality, he can't get it done without a vote of the legislature. I'm tired of unelected bureaucrats having control of our lives. I've done that on the state level. I'm going to take that same aspect to the federal level because we've got, believe it or not, a whole host of agencies that want to meddle in your business. We've got the EPA, we've got labor laws, banking laws, you name it. There's not an area that your life is not affected by government. And it's time for us, we the people, to take that back. It's time for someone who's just like you, Someone who is signed both sides of the paycheck. Someone who has a business owner sometimes holds his own paycheck until there's enough money to cash it. You all know the struggles. I see those struggles every day. And what we're seeing is that Americans are being left behind because government is forgetting about us. We've got people who go to office who forget where they came from. You know, you talk about being a state legislator, it's a part-time job. 4 days a week, 4 months out of the year. You know what I would do on Thursday afternoon and Fridays? I was right back home cleaning carpets. Because that was my job. That was my career. I was 44 before I ever was approached to run for politics. But it's because of not something for me, not something about my business, not something that was going to benefit me. It was going to benefit we, the people. Get that right. It's not about my business. It's not about how it affects my bottom line. Because there are Americans all over this country that are hurting because the government has taken too much from them. You know, we've got debt problems, we've got spending problems, and it's time that we teach government 2 letters, N-O, no. When you talk about the health care, this gentleman right here has already dealt with what's going to happen with mandated health care when they never try to tell you what you can do and what you can't do. I led the charge in Oklahoma. We talked about pushing back against Obamacare. We talked about Representative Ritz, who's going to push back and nullify. We need to continue that fight. I started the fight and we pushed back the $54 million health care exchange in Oklahoma because the federal government wanted to give it to us. And trust me, anytime they want to give you something, it's got strings attached. And like I said on the House floor, it becomes the noose around our kids' neck and their future because they're the ones that are going to be left having to pay for the bill. But it's time that we bring accountability back to we the people. It's time that we let Washington know that they are not in control. They think that they are in control, but it's time that we the people exert our rights at the ballot box. And let's flip this seat to Republican. Let's change the occupant of the White House, which is number 1, and let's get this country back on track. I appreciate your support. I'll be more than happy to answer any kind of questions you have. I don't know how much time we have, but you know, this election is important. This is not just about, oh, we're going to flip the seat red and Oklahoma wants all Republicans. This is about the future of our country. If you would just read some of the legislation that's happened over the last few years of how they want to dictate your life, how they want to move you in a direction that is so contrary to the American dream and the American way, and so contrary to our Constitution. They have a different vision of America than what you and I have. And it's time for us as patriots to stand up today and stand up and right the ship and get it going in the right direction. So obviously the election is just around the corner. We appreciate your vote. We always appreciate your monetary support for the campaign. There's lots of ways you can get involved in walking, calling, talking to your neighbors. We want you involved in the process. And together we can change the culture in Washington, D.C. And it starts right here. Thank you.
Lord, you talk about pushing back. I'll tell you where we start pushing back, and that's ACLU. We're subsidizing ACLU by like $30 million in our taxpayers. That's American Christian liquidation.
That's right.
That's right. That guy that formed ACLU was in prison. He studied law. Baldwin was his name. And he took the First Amendment rights and he said, I can destroy America with the First Amendment rights. And that's what ACLU is doing. And that's how they started.
Yeah, so much to where a Christian chicken house can't even decide when they want to stay open.
Where do you stand on the second, since he brought up the first, how
Okay.
about the second grade?
I believe you need to hold it with both hands.
Amen.
All concealed carry permits, I've been endorsed by the OK-02 NWA, which is an Oklahoma Second Amendment organization. I've also been endorsed by Gun Owners of America, and that's because of my record. I'm not a question mark when it comes to defending our Second Amendment rights. I've got a record, and that's what's important. We need to make sure we send someone up there who we know where they're going to stand, and someone who can beat the Democrats, because they want to win as badly as we do. But I think Americans need to wake up and say, which is the way that we're going to restore America back. Last question.
What about the NEA, the national education?
Well, I'm not a big union fan, period. And really, education, if you really want to fix it, it ought to be brought down to the state level. Who knows better? Who knows better Oklahoma's problems than Oklahomans? Somebody in Washington, they don't even know where Poteau is. Okay, so I think anything you can push down to the states, we have better representation. You see your representatives at Walmart. I don't know if you're like me, you can't get out of Walmart in less than an hour. But that's what it's all about. It's about public servants who are willing to put their life on hold. They're willing to sacrifice for the good of the people and not just for their own selves. And that's what I've done for the last 6 years, and that's what I'll continue to do if a portion of the year. Thank you.